Our faculty inductee this year is one of my favorite teachers from high school also, Mrs. Eileen Plocker. Accepting on behalf of Mrs. Plocker is her daughter, Lisa Claybaugh. Her presenter is also our longtime SHS English teacher and member of the Hall of Distinction, Mr. Phil Pearson.
When I was first asked to present Eileen today, I immediately thought about the fact that I was privileged when I was teaching to teach alongside some of the greatest and best teachers that Shelby ever had. And I want to also say that don't worry, there are many more coming up through the ranks now that are really, really good teachers and will be known for a long time. I'm not going to mention the names of these teachers because I'll leave someone out, I'm sure. But some of them are in the Hall of Distinction now and some are not. Dear Eileen, I'm sure that many of you who were in her classes knew her to be a very kind and gentle and understanding person. Extremely talented as a teacher, she also was known for her cooking and sewing abilities outside the classroom. One of Eileen's favorite activities at school was teaching a class that she started called Bachelor Basics. I have to smile every time I think of that class because I remember seeing some of the kids with flour all over the place. Some of those boys, they were so proud of the cupcakes they baked. And she had so much fun with those boys, they used to tease her quite a bit too. But she just smiled and she was proud of what she had accomplished. She made them self-reliant. She prepared them to take on the responsibilities of adulthood and family. She taught them cooking and sewing and all those things that up until that time she pushed for this class had been reserved only for the girls. Those boys were so proud of their cooking and sewing, and I'm sure to this day they're able to sew a button on their shirts by themselves and cook meals at home and even wash the dishes the correct way. They still know how to get stains out of clothes and separate the whites from the colors when they did the laundry. Those things never meant much to them until they were in Eileen's class. All you wives out there would be quite fortunate if your husband had taken this class. Eileen, however, taught more than home ec schools. She taught patience and family values and led by example. Eileen reached beyond the classroom, volunteering for a variety of activities. She never said no to anything, and I don't think she could say no to anything. And that didn't always make her husband, Howard, very happy. He tried to restrain her sometimes, but she just plowed ahead, saying yes to everything. She was quite active at church. Her volunteer activities there knew no bounds. She and Howard were leaders in the church, and they involved themselves in so many activities there. One thing a lot of people don't know about Eileen was that she played the cello when she was younger. She didn't play it so much in her later years. In fact, I never heard her play it. She didn't appreciate it, however, when I told her that the cello was not one of my favorite instruments. But out of respect for her, I tried to learn to like it. It was partially successful. One of Eileen's greatest joys was traveling. She joined me on several European trips and would readily go at the drop of a hat. Sometimes Howard went, sometimes he didn't. She joined me in China as well. She traveled with an old Chinese friend she had made, and they had the best time together going through China. Eileen hiked in the Alps. She tried out one of those newfangled public toilets on the sidewalks of Paris. She met up with foreign exchange students in their home countries. She visited an igloo in Alaska. She walked part of the Great Wall of China. What a trooper. Eileen was the photographer of the family, and she loved taking pictures and slides, thousands of them. She gave many slideshows narrating her experiences. After she retired from teaching, which she was very reluctant to do, she wanted to learn how to operate a computer. She got her own computer and she enjoyed reading emails, going on the internet, and doing other computer activities. Eileen and Howard raised a wonderful family together, a family of 4 children, 3 of whom became teachers. Their parenting skills were wonderful. Eileen had many friends, many of whom were former students. She easily made friends and became a friend of people who didn't have many friends. She could always see the good in everyone. I spent many evenings in their home enjoying Howard and Eileen's tasty food and good cooking. I don't think they invited me just because I was a bachelor and they felt sorry for me, but I think they did it because we truly enjoyed each other's company. And they were always eager to find out what was going on in the schools. Eileen's smiles, her dedication to her students, her family, and her church, her expressions of love, her good example, her service to others, and her willingness to try new things and meet new people of different cultures all combine to make her a unique person, worthy of a memorable place here at Shelby Senior High and also in our hearts.
Thank you, Phil. I'm honored to represent my family in accepting this award on behalf of my mother. I want to thank all of the people who worked hard to make this event a success, and I'd also like to congratulate all of the 2015 inductees. My mom was an amazing woman with many talents and interests. She was an accomplished seamstress and cook. She enjoyed decorating and entertaining. She did needlework, including cross-stitch, quilting, and bunka. She wrote poetry for all occasions. She loved to travel, especially with Phil and friends. She was an avid volunteer in church-related activities and community activities. She was a wonderful mother and grandmother. And with all of her talents and interests, I think one of her best qualities was her keen interest in people. She really enjoyed being with people, and she was always kind and caring with everyone. From the time she came to Shelby in 1946 to teach home ec until she died in 2006, Shelby High School was very important. It was a very important part of her life. She loved teaching, and she valued her relationships with students, parents, and coworkers. Even after she retired in 1984, she continued to maintain many friendships with people she had met at Shelby High School. In her first year of teaching, Mary Ann Gates was one of her students, and this was the beginning of a lifelong friendship that they both treasured. And throughout the years, my mom liked to tease Mary Ann about her conduct and talking in class when she was a student in my mom's class. And in reality, I think my mom was quite a talker. Well, I know she was, especially when she was with Mary Ann. In Mom's second year of teaching, she started dating my dad, and then at the end of the school year, they got married. And one of her students, Jean Lash, told me that my mom would write notes to my dad, and she would ask Jean to deliver these notes to my dad's room on the second floor. And before Jean would leave the room, she would say, "Now, don't read this note before you give this to Mr. Plucker." So I don't know what the notes included. For many years, my mom taught home ec to girls, and the focus was mostly on cooking and sewing. And then, as Phil said, she started the Bachelor Basics class in the 70s, and this was for senior boys. And it was designed to teach them all about living on their own, and it also included some topics about marriage. Well, a few years ago, I was talking to a father of one of my third grade students, and his son was ornery. He didn't always like to follow the rules, and this father told me that he was just like that when he was in school. And to illustrate his point, he started to tell me a story. He said, "Did you know Mrs. Blocker? She taught Bachelor Basics at the high school." And at first I thought, okay, he's kidding me, but then I realized he really didn't know the connection. And because I was curious to hear the story, I didn't say anything, I just listened. And he told me how in Bachelor Basics they had a mock wedding. A senior boy and girl would get dressed up and they would go through a pretend marriage ceremony on the stage at the high school. And I think this started the unit that my mom planned for, to talk about marriage. And it also included traditional wedding music. Well, he got a hold of the music and he switched the music, so instead of the quiet wedding music, hard rock came blaring out, and it caused quite a commotion. And he said that Mrs. Blocker soon found out he was the guilty one, and she took him in the hall and she said, "David, I am so disappointed in you." And he said, "I felt terrible. I never wanted to disappoint Mrs. Blocker." At that point I had to tell him, well, she was my mother and I never wanted to disappoint her either. But that's how my mother taught. She loved and respected her students, and in return, they loved and respected her. And I want to thank you so much for honoring my mother with this induction into the Hall of Distinction. It is a real privilege for her to join my dad with this honor. And as my daughter Katie said, I'm amazed at how they continue to make our family proud even after their lives on earth are done.